Hey, Chaim here. After experiencing life in the religious world and the secular world, I now have a better understanding of the world around me, in my opinion. You see, I was born into a religious Jewish home, and life led me in the complete opposite direction. When I was older, I eventually became religious again for 4 years. Until recent events occurred, I was what you called a militant religious fellow. I was sure, like the sun shines here in sunny Florida, that there was a God. And then when I had to make a decision about life itself and surviving, I had to choose whether I had enough faith in God to keep it or break it for survival purposes. After I realized I did not have enough faith in God to provide other means for my survival, I decided to work on one of the high Jewish holidays that were required of me to start my career off. I had people tell me it's not like it's a life versus death issue, for it is not like someone is holding a gun up to your head and telling you to eat pork or anything of that nature. But the issue is, if I had enough faith, and let's just say I decided to turn down the job offer because it fell on a high holiday, what will happen if I don't get another job offer for another year, just like it took me a year to find this job after I got the certifications to do this in the first place? Well, I don't have another year to wait, and I needed the money at the time. It turns out they haven't hired another group of people for another 7 months. So by having faith in God, I would have had to wait 7 months or hope that all the other places that I applied for and got turned down from would have a job opening sooner or later. Maybe it couldn't hurt to have a little faith, but how much faith should one have realistically? Should it be to the point where you put objectively important things at risk and things that are subjectively important as top priority? Or should it be the other way around? Well, this is a question that I had to answer for myself. My religion is based on faith and faith alone. Despite the highly suggestible evidence that led me to follow Judaism in the first place, it is subjective reasoning based on the fact that I am not a witness of the religious events that took place on Mount Sinai. Just like other religious people today, such as devout Christians, who claim their religion is right, they were not witnesses to Jesus' miracles, nor were they witnesses to God telling them that Jesus is his son. The reasoning is purely subjective because, in order to follow it, only faith is required, not direct revelation, which is objective. Some would like to claim they directly met Jesus, but through a dream or something of that nature. The, the difference is, Jesus was not physically there with you, he was in your dreams. And even if he were there with you now, you would have to question whether this is just a man claiming he is Jesus, or is in fact the real deal. You would have to have recollection of how Jesus really looked like when he was around 2,000 years ago. And that is impossible, being as no one today lives past 100 years old. And we have pictures depicting how Jesus might have looked like. Some even think he was black. So the fact is, no one knows his specific features other than that he might have had long hair because he was a Nazarene. Then you have the great claim of my ancestors, in whom claim that God spoke to an entire nation telling them what to do. Despite it being a great claim that everyone witnessed, they also claim that every generation of Jews heard it, including us, in whom are living thousands of years later. Where do they get this claim from? Especially since none of us Jews today have such a memory other than our parents or teachers telling us. So in Deuteronomy 29 12 through 14, it states, "In order to establish you this day as his people, and that he will be your God, as he spoke to you, and he swore to your forefathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. But not only with you am I making this covenant and this oath, but with those standing with us here today before the Lord our God, and also with those who are not with us here this day, which refers to the next generations after this one, in whom supposedly witnessed this event. So, as Rabbi Shraga Simmons states, he tries to prove this point, prove that Judaism is the truth by stating, let's pretend you're God and you want to transmit a religion to a people. You have two choices. You can either give it to a messenger to give to the people, or you can give it to the entire people directly. Which is a better choice? The rabbi then goes on to claim that also the next generation will know that the event occurred both because their own parents who were direct eyewitnesses told them, and because everyone else in the nation is either a direct eyewitness or offspring of a direct eyewitness. So, the question now is whether we truly know the event occurred, or do we truly believe the event occurred? So, what makes this event any different than the Christians or Muslim events? Rabbi Shraga does go on to try and answer this, and he says, in evaluating the relative strength of various types of historical claims, the key number to keep in mind is not the number of people who at some later date came to accept this claim as true. Rather, the significant factor is the number of people it is claimed were direct participants or eyewitnesses of such an event. Does this prove to be knowledge or belief? Well, let's take into consideration another statement that will give us a well-rounded picture. Instead of a religious claim, let's bring in a secular claim. George Washington was the first president of the United States. We all agree that this is true, correct? Now the question we must ask ourselves honestly, do we know or do we believe? The absolute answer is we believe based on strong evidence that highly suggests George Washington was in fact the first president. So too with such religious claims. The difference is, with religious claims, there is a high expectation from for the individual. This is where one must answer the question of how much faith should one have realistically. Should it be to the point where we put objectively important things at risk and things that are subjectively important as top priority? Or should it be the other way around? My friends, I've come to realize I have put many important relationships and opportunities at risk for my beliefs. What I do know as fact is that I have people here in whom I do have relationships with. And I also have opportunities that were or are awaiting for me to fulfill them. These are objective. They are facts that can be observed. My religious claims cannot be observed based on the fact that it supposedly already happened before my time, and therefore I cannot claim it as if I were a witness in which would allow me to know rather than believe. So in conclusion, I have come to realize it's good to have faith in something reasonable, but it should not be detrimental and interfere with living life. For we were given life, which reveals much more importance to than interfering claims based on belief. This has been Chaim. Thank you for listening. Peace.